I remember the first time I heard about Eiden. Not from a book, not from a headline, but from an old archivist in a dusty provincial library who spoke about it like a confession. He said there was once a village that vanished, not destroyed, not abandoned, simply gone, as if it had stepped out of time. The strangest part, a century later it came back. Every house, every tree, every soul, exactly as it had been the night it disappeared. For weeks I thought it was folklore, another rural ghost story to fill empty nights, but something about the way he said it stayed with me. He didn't say, "They say." He said, "It happened." And so I began to look. The name of the village, according to scattered mentions, was Eiden, a farming community nestled in the valley of Central Europe, small, isolated, unremarkable. But in November of 1899, a postal courier reported something strange. When he reached the turn leading to Eiden, the path ended in an open field. No houses, no smoke from chimneys, just frost and silence. He thought he'd lost his way, but the coordinates were right. Eiden had been there for centuries, and that day it simply was. I found old maps that marked the place clearly up until 1899. Then nothing. The region's records skip over it entirely, as if censored. Even the census data that year lists one missing entry, village name, redacted, population, 312, status, unknown. It's as if someone had cut a piece of the world out with surgical precision. Over time, Eiden became a myth. Farmers told stories of hearing bells in the fog or seeing candlelight deep in the woods where the road used to be. Some swore that on cold nights, they could hear church hymns echoing from beneath the earth. Others said time itself folded over that place, that it was trapped in a loop, waiting. A century later, in 1999, something extraordinary happened. Satellite imaging by a regional survey team detected structures where there shouldn't have been any. Rectangular shadows, straight lines, roof patterns. When a ground team arrived, they found it. Eiden standing as if it had never left. The houses were wooden, untouched by decay. The wells were full. Even the crops in the fields were standing tall, though they hadn't been planted by human hands in 100 years. There were footprints in the mud, fresh ones. And inside the homes, fires still smoldered in the hearths. The clocks ticked. The food on tables was warm. But there was no one there. Every journal, every diary, every sign of life seemed to stop at the same hour. 7:42 p.m., November 12, 1899. The villagers had vanished mid-sentence, mid-step, mid-meal. And somehow the village returned at that exact same moment, 100 years later. The air was filled with the smell of smoke and rain, but not of rot or age. It was as if time had held its breath. Scientists were called in. They found anomalies in the soil composition, traces of radiation inconsistent with the environment, and a magnetic field distortion that caused compasses to spin wildly. Clocks stopped working within the perimeter. Sound seemed to dull as if absorbed by the air, but no one could explain the perfection of the preservation. No one could explain how everything looked untouched. I spoke with an old man who claimed his grandfather was a boy when Eiden disappeared. He told me something that still makes my blood run cold. My grandfather used to hear them, he said. The missing ones, talking in their sleep, calling from another century. One theory suggests a sinkhole swallowed the town, sealing it underground and somehow preserving it, but no geological evidence supports that. Another speculates it was a military experiment gone wrong, but the technology simply didn't exist in 1899. Others whisper about a cosmic fold, a place where time looped over itself like fabric. But there's another theory, less scientific, more human. Some believe the people of Eiden refused to move on. They say the village was cursed not by nature or gods, but by memory itself. The villagers feared being forgotten, and in that fear something answered. Perhaps memory, collective, desperate, and ancient, has more power than we understand. Perhaps Eiden's people didn't vanish at all. Maybe they hid inside their own remembering, and time lost its way around them. When the government sealed off the site in 2001, claiming contamination, Eiden disappeared again. Not destroyed this time, simply erased. No signs on maps, no public records, no way in. Yet some travelers claim that on certain nights the village still appears, glowing faintly in the mist, bells ringing in the distance, the faint hum of a place that refuses to die. Sometimes I think about that archivist, the one who first told me the story. I went back to find him a few months ago, but no one at the library remembered anyone by that name. His desk was empty, his personnel file missing, almost as if he, too, had never existed. Maybe Eiden isn't a place at all. Maybe it's an idea, the world's memory of what happens when we forget too much. When we let silence consume the names of those who once lived and loved. Maybe the village returns not for itself, but for us to remind us that memory is not permanent. That if we stop telling the stories, even time forgets where we've been. And yet there's one last thing that keeps me awake. When I was leaving the valley for the last time, I passed the field where Eiden was said to have stood. The mist was heavy, swallowing everything in pale gray. And then for a moment I heard it, a bell, distant, faint, followed by voices singing a hymn I swear I'd heard before. I turned around. The field was empty, but the air smelled faintly of wood smoke, and I could have sworn there was light coming from the fog. Because maybe, just maybe, Eiden was never lost. Maybe we were.